Life without form is a ship lost at sea. Have you ever noticed how easily a day can unravel? One unexpected phone call, a missed alarm, a child with a fever, and suddenly, your entire routine collapses like a house of cards. It's easy to feel lost in the chaos, to feel like life is something happening to us, not something we're actively shaping. Seneca once said, "A life without design is erratic." Look around, and you'll see it. People rushing through their day, but when asked where they're heading or why, they draw a blank. They're winging it, and perhaps so are we. For years, I believed in the sanctity of routine. I built systems, I followed rituals, I swore by my morning hours. But then life reminded me of a hard truth. Routines are fragile. They shatter under pressure, especially when the unexpected becomes the norm. And so, I began to evolve. What if, instead of routines, we focused on practices, anchoring principles that hold steady, even when life doesn't? This is what I want to explore with you today. Not a rigid blueprint, but 10 Stoic practices, timeless, grounding, and flexible, that can weather the storms of life and help you return to yourself again and again. Stay with me until the end, because practice number 13 might just shift the way you see your place in the world. 1. Rise before the world does. Own the morning, own the day. Before the emails flood in. Before the world makes its demands. Before anyone needs anything from you. There's a sacred space, and only those who rise early get to live in it. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled one of the greatest empires in history, once asked himself a simple yet piercing question. Were you made to lie under the covers and keep warm? Of course not. He reminded himself, and us, that we were made to act, to serve, to fulfill our purpose. The modern world, with its endless distractions and dopamine loops, tries to steal our mornings. It whispers, hit snooze just 5 more minutes. But the Stoic says, rise. Rise not just physically, but with intention. Dante, the great poet, once wrote, "Under the blankets is no way to fame." But we're not talking about fame in the superficial sense. We're talking about excellence, about showing up for life with clarity and direction. To rise early is not about productivity hacks. It's about reclaiming authorship of your day before the noise sets in. So what should you do in that quiet space? Go for a walk. Watch the sun climb over the horizon. Sit with your breath, or take a pen to paper. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it centers you, because a Stoic doesn't drift into the day by accident. The morning is the anchor. When you own it, you own your presence. And when you own your presence, you own your choices. And so I ask you, what would your life look like if you met the morning before the world arrived? Would your mind be clearer? Would your decisions carry more weight? Would your days stop feeling like they were slipping through your fingers? Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for motivation. The Stoics didn't. They got up even when they didn't feel like it, especially then. But rising early is only the beginning. Owning the morning means more than just being awake. It means being aware. And one of the most powerful ways to sharpen that awareness is through a quiet, intimate ritual the Stoics revered deeply, journaling. Because before we engage with the world, we must first understand ourselves. 2. The silent mentor, journaling as a tool for self-mastery. Before Marcus Aurelius led legions into battle or passed judgments that shaped an empire, he sat down and wrote to himself, not to impress, not for anyone else to read, but to think. What we now know as meditations was never meant for the world. It was Marcus working through his doubts, his duties, his anger, his grief. All of it poured onto the page, quietly, before the noise of power and responsibility could cloud his clarity. That's the essence of journaling. It's not a productivity hack. It's a spiritual discipline, a mirror held to your mind. We all wake up with voices in our head, fears, anxieties, hopes, judgments. Most of the time, we carry them around unconsciously, letting them steer us without question. But the moment you write them down, something shifts. You see them for what they are, sometimes wise, often irrational, and occasionally ridiculous. And Frank once said, "Paper is more patient than people." And she was right. The page doesn't interrupt. It doesn't judge. It simply listens. When you journal, you're not just unloading. You're testing your thoughts. You're creating distance, enough to examine your beliefs, challenge your fears, and find your own voice within the noise. Sometimes I write on note cards, sometimes in a bound book. There's no right format, only the quiet courage to be honest with yourself. And here's the real magic. Once your thoughts are on paper, you're no longer ruled by them. You become their author, not their captive. So ask yourself each morning, what am I afraid of today? What am I aiming for? What am I grateful for even now? This small practice doesn't just start your day, it stabilizes it. Journaling opens the door to self-awareness, but it's not the only path. Sometimes the clearest thinking doesn't come when we sit down, but when we start moving. And so next, let's step outside and explore why walking has been a trusted Stoic ritual for centuries. 3. Walk to remember, moving the body, still the mind. Some of the greatest thinkers in history had one thing in common. They walked. Socrates wandered the streets of Athens. Seneca strolled through the gardens of his villa. Marcus Aurelius, too, wrote of the value of walking without destination, not for exercise, but for liberation, because to walk is to return to yourself. In a world that moves too fast, walking slows you down. It pulls you out of the echo chambers of your devices and into the rhythm of your breath, your feet, your thoughts. Seneca wrote, "The mind must be given over to relaxation." But this isn't laziness. It's recovery. The Stoics believe the mind, like a bow, cannot remain taut forever. Let it go slack, let it wander. And when you return, it will be sharper. When I walk, I don't bring my phone. I don't plan a podcast or call. I simply move. Sometimes alone. Sometimes with my kids. The road isn't always scenic, but it's always sacred. And strangely enough, that's when clarity arrives. A knot untangles. A fear softens. An idea surfaces. Not because I chased it, but because I let it come. Nietzsche once said, "All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking." Maybe he was right. Or maybe walking simply clears enough mental fog for us to hear what was inside us all along. The Stoics knew to be still in motion is a paradox worth practicing. So even if it's 5 minutes around the block, even if it's raining or cold or inconvenient, walk. Not to arrive somewhere, but to come back to yourself. When the body moves, the mind breathes. But to truly nourish your inner world, you must also feed it. And there's no better food for the soul than reading. Not randomly, but intentionally, a little each day. Let's turn to that next. 4. Daily readings, conversations with the dead, lessons for the living. There's a kind of loneliness that no crowd can cure. It's the feeling of drifting, of being alive but not guided. The Stoics understood this, and so they read. They read not for entertainment, but for enlightenment. Not to escape life, but to understand how best to live it. Tolstoy, in his final years, compiled a book titled A Calendar of Wisdom, a daily dose of insight from the greatest minds he ever encountered. He wrote, "How is it possible that people do not want to communicate with the wisest humans who ever lived?" The answer? Most don't know where to start, but you do. Right here in this simple practice. A page a day, a thought to hold, a challenge to carry. Whether it's Seneca's razor-sharp clarity, Marcus Aurelius' meditations and power, Epictetus' unwavering resolve, or even modern voices like Robert Greene, Cal Newport, or Stephen Pressfield, daily reading becomes a compass. It's not about how fast you read. It's about what you return to again and again until it sinks in. I keep a small stack by my desk, books worn at the edges, underlined, dog-eared. The Daily Stoic, the Daily Laws, the War of Art, the Daily Drucker. I flip them open not because I need answers, but because I want better questions. And each passage whispers something new, not because the words changed, but because I did. That's what daily reading is, a mirror to your growth. One line can stay with you for hours. One idea can change how you handle a conflict, a setback, a temptation. Reading every day doesn't mean you have time. It means you make time for wisdom, for reflection, for your future self. Because the mind, like the body, must be nourished daily. And books, when chosen well, are soul food. The mind grows strong through study, but it grows resilient through challenge. And one of the most ancient and uncomfortable Stoic practices awaits us next, the cold, sharp clarity of voluntary discomfort. 5. Into the cold, training the will through discomfort. It hits you like a slap, sharp, undeniable, pure. The moment your body touches the ice-cold water, every cell screams, "Get out." But you don't. You breathe. You stay. Because this is not about temperature. It's about mastery. The Stoics believed in preparing for adversity, not when it came, but before. Seneca fasted and wore simple clothes, not because he had to, but to remind himself, I can endure. I lack nothing essential. Today, the cold plunge is a modern ritual in the same spirit. You step in, you feel the panic rise, and then if you hold, something incredible happens. The body slows, the mind quiets, the ego dissolves. You're not thinking about emails, about money, about yesterday's argument. You're simply present. Marcus Aurelius wrote about washing off the dust of earthly life. The Romans had bathhouses, hot-cold alternations. But it wasn't luxury. It was cleansing of the mind, of the spirit. In the cold, there's nowhere to run. No phone, no distraction, just the raw truth. You are not your comfort. That's the lesson. Because life will throw discomfort at you. Heartbreak, illness, loss. If you've never trained your will in controlled discomfort, how will you respond to chaos? I aim for 11 minutes of cold exposure each week. Not because I enjoy it, but because I've never regretted it. I always come out feeling stronger, calmer, sharper. So no, the Stoics didn't have a cold plunge like mine, but they knew the value of voluntary hardship, to steel the soul before the storm arrives. And when the world tells you to seek ease, luxury, warmth, the Stoic walks into the cold willingly. But the cold isn't just about willpower. It's about focus. Because after you emerge, clear-eyed, awakened, what you choose to do next sets the tone for everything. So now, let's talk about a rule that can transform your entire day. Do the hard thing first. 6. Lead with the heavy, do the hard thing first. There's a reason why most people drift through their day reacting, rather than directing. They start with the easy. They delay the difficult. And by the time the moment feels right to tackle what truly matters, it's already too late. The Stoics would call this self-deception. William Stafford, the poet, offered a counter-rule for creators and thinkers. Do the hard thing first. Not the emails, not the texts, not the quick wins. The thing you're avoiding, that's the one. Why? Because resistance is loudest in the morning. And if you let it win early, it will run your entire day. But if you confront it, if you sit down, face the blank page, lift the heavy bar, make the difficult call, then everything after feels lighter. Thomas Edison said, we pick up the heavy end first. And once you've picked it up, even a little, you've already won. You've already sent a signal to your mind. I lead. I choose. For me, that means writing before anything else. Before meetings, before news, before the world demands my attention, I go deep. Because writing is my craft, my service, and no one can do it for me. Maybe for you it's something else, coding, painting, planning, problem solving. Whatever it is, if it matters, It deserves your best energy, not your leftovers. Don't wait for motivation. Use momentum. Let that one hard thing pull the rest of the day forward like a freight train. Once you've tackled the heavy, don't let the light things pull you off course. Now it's time to go even deeper, into a zone of intense clarity and presence that the modern world makes nearly impossible. Deep, uninterrupted work. 7. Deep work, the discipline of unbroken focus. It's easy to feel busy. It's hard to feel progressing. That's because most of what fills our day isn't work, it's noise. Messages, meetings, notifications, favors, fires to put out. We trick ourselves into thinking activity is achievement. But deep down we know better. The Stoics called it busy idleness. Seneca warned of those who run around all day and accomplish nothing of substance. So here's the antidote. Deep work, the kind of focus that demands everything from you and gives you everything back. Cal Newport, who coined the term, put it simply: large, uninterrupted blocks of time are the most valuable currency of the knowledge worker. This isn't just about doing your job. It's about doing what only you can do, the work that can't be outsourced, rushed, or faked. For me, that's writing. I guard those hours fiercely. No email, no meetings, no phone. Just thought, word, revision. That's the creative forge where my best work is born. And here's the truth. If you wait until the end of the day to do your deep work, it won't happen. You'll be tired, distracted, already pulled in too many directions. You need magical hours, as James Clear calls them. A sacred window when you are sharp, awake, and undisturbed. Maybe it's 6 to 9 a.m. Maybe it's midnight to 2 a.m. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you protect it, like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, your legacy does. Don't let your life become a reaction. Let it be a creation, one block of deep, meaningful focus at a time. But as powerful as focused work is, something unexpected happens when we finally let go. Some of our most profound ideas don't arrive in struggle. They arrive in stillness. Let's explore that next. 8. Stillness, where the loudest answers arrive in silence. Not every breakthrough begins with effort. Some are born in silence, in stillness, in the moments when you're finally not trying. I wasn't in the office. I wasn't brainstorming. I was on a hike with my wife and kids. One child in a backpack, another holding hands, when the idea for my biggest book project hit me like a gust of wind. Unplanned, unforced, undeniably clear. Stillness is not inactivity. It is a powerful receptive state, one the Stoics treasured and practiced with intention. Seneca wrote of wandering walks and quiet retreats. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, carved out time each day to sit with his thoughts alone. Because only when the waves settle do we see what lies beneath. You've probably felt it too. You're watching a sunset, listening to the wind in the trees, sitting quietly with a cup of coffee in the early morning, and suddenly it hits. The insight, the answer, the path forward. It doesn't come from grinding. It comes from making space. But in today's world, stillness feels radical. We're conditioned to fill every second, to scroll, to refresh, to respond. Yet the greatest minds in history knew, your best work often begins the moment you stop working. Stillness isn't optional. It's fuel. And without it, you're not thinking. You're just reacting faster and louder. So whether it's a walk without your phone, 10 minutes of sitting quietly before bed, or watching the clouds drift, don't underestimate what your mind can hear when the world goes quiet. Stillness brings perspective, but perspective is only useful when it's lived through action. The Stoics believed philosophy means nothing if not practiced, and no practice is more urgent than doing what's right, regardless of how you feel. Next, we step into the virtue that ties all others together. Justice, the daily commitment to being a force for good. 9. Do good, the only habit that matters when everything else falls away. What if you lost it all? The structure, the stillness, the morning routine, the deep work, the quiet walks. What if the world turned chaotic tomorrow? According to the Stoics, there's still one thing, one unchangeable practice you can hold on to. Do what is right. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, it doesn't matter if you're cold or tired. It doesn't matter what they say or do. My job is to be good. That's it. Not to be liked. Not to win. Not even to feel good. Just to do good. This is the virtue of justice. It's not political. It's personal. It's holding the line. Being the person you claim to be, even when no one's watching. Because the real test isn't in grand gestures. It's in the tiny, invisible choices made daily. Do you speak truth when it's inconvenient? Do you help even when no credit is given? Do you choose integrity over advantage? The Stoics didn't say virtue was easy. They said it was essential. Because everything else, fame, comfort, control, can be taken from you. But your character? That's yours alone to shape. So when in doubt, choose kindness. Choose clarity. Choose what strengthens the soul, not what inflates the ego. That is Stoicism lived. And when your habits are shaken, when routines fall apart, when plans dissolve, this one habit still holds. Be a force for good in a chaotic world. 10. Practice voluntary simplicity. Crave less, live more. The Stoics didn't fear poverty, they practiced it. Seneca, one of Rome's richest men, would sleep on the floor and eat coarse bread for days, just to ask himself, is this what I was so afraid of? Because once you've tasted simplicity, you realize most fear is illusion. That the craving for luxury, status, or approval is just noise. In a world obsessed with more, the Stoic trains to thrive on less. Fewer possessions, fewer distractions, more presence, more peace. Voluntary simplicity is not deprivation. It is liberation. It's you saying, I know what matters. I'm not owned by what I own. So take a day to disconnect. Wear the same clothes. Eat simply. Say no to what you don't need. Feel the clarity that arises when your life isn't bloated. When you've learned to live with less, you gain more than control. You gain clarity. And with that clarity comes a sharper ability to face discomfort emotionally, not just physically. Next, we'll explore how to strengthen that emotional armor through negative visualization. 11. Negative visualization. Train the mind for loss before it arrives. Most people avoid thinking about what could go wrong. The Stoics leaned in. They practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Each morning, they imagined what might go wrong. Losing a job, a betrayal, illness, even death. Not to spiral into anxiety, but to be ready. Because if you've rehearsed loss, you're less afraid of it. And strangely, you also appreciate what you have more deeply. Epictetus said, never say of anything, I have lost it, but I have given it back. That's not coldness, it's clarity. You don't own your health, your wealth, even your loved ones. You only borrow them. And when you remember that, even for a moment, gratitude floods in. Try it. Before sipping your coffee, imagine never having it again. Before hugging someone, imagine this being the last. Loss, imagined rightly, births appreciation. And appreciation makes you more resilient when real loss knocks. But even this mental strength isn't enough if your day is scattered by constant motion. The next Stoic practice is one of the hardest in today's world, yet one of the most transformative. Saying no. 12. Say no. Guard the gate to your time and soul. You only have so many hours, so many decisions, so much energy, and yet, most people give them away like they're infinite. The Stoic doesn't. They know that every yes is a no to something else. So they train in the art of refusal, not from ego, but from clarity. Seneca wrote, people are frugal with their money, but waste the one thing they cannot buy: time. So you say no to the unnecessary meeting, no to the mindless scroll, no to the person who drains your presence and purpose. And in that refusal, something unexpected blooms. Freedom. You realize that saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection, back toward your values, your craft, your center. Because a Stoic life isn't built by adding more, it's built by subtracting what doesn't serve. And when you've stripped life down to what truly matters, you begin to see it clearly for what it is: temporary, finite, precious. Now let's return to the final and most grounding Stoic practice of all: embracing your mortality. 13. Embrace mortality. Stand at the edge so you live at the center. We live like we have time. We fill our calendars. We plan next month, next year. We scroll through life as if the next moment is guaranteed. But the Stoics knew the truth. Memento mori, remember, you must die. Not as a morbid curse, but as a clarifying gift. Because when you hold your mortality in mind, your priorities sharpen, your patience expands, and your pettiness falls away like dust. Ryan Holiday lives on a ranch. He speaks of watching animals live and die, of having to put down a cow, not someday but today. Not because it's convenient, but because it's right. There's no HR department in nature, no time to overthink. Life demands presence, and sometimes mercy. The city numbs us from death, but nature reminds you that everything is trying to survive, and everything eventually returns to the earth. You see a longhorn skull on the wall, and you remember, that too will be you. That too will be me. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. So what if you lived like you remembered? Would you hold that grudge? Would you postpone that dream? Would you waste today? Mortality isn't an interruption. It's a mirror. And when we look into it, clearly we begin to truly live. These 13 practices aren't hacks. They're not trends. They are anchors, forged from ancient fire, tested by life, and meant to hold you steady through chaos. Not every day will be perfect, but every day can be intentional. So rise early, journal your mind, walk with presence, read with purpose, plunge into challenge. Do the hard thing first. Protect your focus. Sit in stillness. Do what's right. Accept what ends. Live simply. Visualize loss. Say no. And remember, you will not live forever. So live now. With courage. With clarity. With calm. If something in this message stirred you, even just a little, don't let it pass like another fleeting thought. Ask yourself, which of these 14 practices will you start today? What's one ritual you can reclaim, not because the world tells you to, but because your soul remembers it needs it? Let me know in the comments, not just for me, but for everyone else walking this path. We're not here to perform Stoicism. We're here to practice it, together, day by day, choice by choice. And if this spoke to you, there's more waiting, more lessons, more stories, more moments that might just change the way you show up in the world. So subscribe, not just to this channel, but to the pursuit of wisdom. Like the video if it lit even a spark. Share it with someone who's searching. And come back, not to escape life, but to understand how to live it better. See you in the next video. Until then, stay strong, stay grounded, stay stoic.